I don't record that.
Like 5:59 on the computer.
That's not always been done.
What's that?
That's not always been done.
Oh, I know. That's always wrong. That doesn't matter. I try to change the batteries. It doesn't.
I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Start, do we have any public comment?
There is nobody online.
Motion to approve minutes from July in 2018.
I second that.
Okay. I just do a yay. Yay. All say yay.
All in favor?
All in favor, say yay.
Yay.
All opposed, say no. Yeah, why are you putting me in charge of doing all these things? So items of business, we're gonna start with 107 High Street.
We'll start with Mike, let him kind of give you guys a little overview.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
how's that?
Sure.
It's all
Yep.
you.
So, Dean, I know you know me, and Jessica, yeah, I know you've been on the board before, but yeah, Mike Daly Martin, for Preston Community Services. I help the city out with planning and zoning issues. Obviously, we're here tonight for variance to discuss 3 variance requests. I guess just in general, when you think about variance requests, you're looking to see if there is some type of hardship that's associated with the property. It's not caused by the applicant, that is imposed by the zoning ordinance, that cannot be achieved without, that the zoning ordinance is preventing them from doing something that is reasonable, and that they can't be achieved without granting a variance. You want to look specifically. There are 8 standards of approval that are outlined in the zoning ordinance anytime a variance is being requested. So for each of these requests tonight, we've gone through and provided some feedback in our staff report, which is in section 4, which these are the standards of approval, and in bold, these are kind of some discussion pieces for you as a board to kind of talk about what's actually being asked and to evaluate those materials. Okay. So I guess for our first item, we've got this request from Todd Brewer for property located at 107 High Street. And he is requesting to install a second driveway on a parcel of land that's currently vacant, that I believe will be combined with the house that's adjacent to this parcel.
Real quick, can you, picture? Oh, that's by the school, right?
Right
Yes.
across from the
South of
school.
Right
South
across.
of Grand River,
So which house is yours?
the white ranch on the corner of Williams and High Street.
Behind the big green.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It's kind of like right across from the,
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
you know,
Okay.
there's like that little circle drive kind of from the
Mhm.
school. It's kind of kitty corner from there.
Okay.
But then it goes further down.
All the way to the old,
The
It goes down,
driveway,
it goes back towards the parking lot. So the driveway that exists is on
It's
High
facing
Street.
the parking lot, or
Did you
it's
get-
facing the park.
did you get that one?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was just.
It's just
Wow,
getting a
I'm-
visual.
I
No,
don't
I
get around
know.
the schools anymore, so I'm just.
Sometimes we're gonna be like, wait, where's that? Yeah.
you're Mr. Brewer,
Yes.
what are you gonna use that for?
That
It
was
says
another question.
storage,
Well, yes, it'll be a pole barn, a proposed pole barn for storage.
okay, but right across from the school, there's gonna be trucks going in
Oh,
and
no,
out,
no.
cars, what?
It'll be boat RV tools for my business. I own several rental properties in the areas, tools and equipment for my company. But it's in very limited access, seasonal type storage predominantly, and then materials for rental business that I own.
So it wouldn't have people coming and going.
No,
for-
no, I would be the only one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, maybe a
I mean, it's a
contractor,
personal,
Yes.
it's not to run a business out of.
not a business out of,
So is the question the driveway or the building?
Question is,
Or both?
it's the driveway. It really is, it's really the driveway. So, yeah, the building would be permitted as long as those lots are put together as either formally or via a zoning lot or the deed restricted. But the zoning ordinance says that this is where we get in 2.2 of the report. Says that single family residential lots are permitted no more than one ingress/egress access onto a public or private road. So being that the lot, being that there's currently a driveway there, there's another one proposed, that's what the variance comes from. Really,
So if you did not combine the parcels, the building wouldn't be allowed either. Because we don't allow like a structure to be built without a primary use. So the primary use would be the home that's there.
No, he's just saying, hey, can I get to it? Basically,
Where is the current driveway? I didn't. even
it's
see
on
it.
High Street. You want to put it on Williams, right?
that's correct.
Yeah, you want to
So
put it,
The driveway faces the playground, doesn't it?
That's correct, but on the very north side of the property.
Okay.
And then the proposed driveway will be on the very southeast side of the property. So directly kitty
like
corner,
here and here.
yes.
And I guess one thing, I guess you really want to think about when it comes to variances, or it has the potential to effectively kind of take away the zoning ordinance regulation and the fact that if you grant one, or let's say we grant this one tonight for an additional driveway, right? If it's not specific on the reasoning on why it's granted, now that regulation is out there, people know that they can come and apply for a variance. And if there's nothing that really specifically identifies hardship, it's going to be really tough to hold that regulation out moving forward. So that's really one thing you want to think about with variances is, what is specific to this property that we can, and makes it unique so that not everybody else can come in and apply for it. Or, if you do generally grant a variance like that, then you kind of need to talk about, is this a regulation that we want to have? Those are, zoning board of appeals do give recommendations to the planning commission on rewrite, but you really do want to avoid just generally granting general variances for things because it does create issues with enforcement. So I think some specific reasoning that was in the application was, that it's a corner lot, and that the current driveway wouldn't provide access to that whole.
I went over and looked and, yeah, the driveway is actually the existing driveway with garage on the west side, isn't it?
Yep.
Northwest side.
So those were separate properties and then you purchased them separate and now you're putting them together. So, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't see why it would be an issue. Obviously, I'm reading Michael's notes and there's things to think about, but you guys seeing anything that I'm not saying?
I guess, Mike, did you explain why we have this rule in the first place? Like, a little bit about, this rule hasn't always been in place. And then it was put in place. We were having roads that we would have to get extra curb cuts on. It creates a lot more, ingress and egress within a neighborhood. Do you want everyone to have two driveways? There's just a lot of things that you have to think about that if you want to start approving these, then that's, it is in our rules that we're not allowed to have a second driveway in the residential district.
Right.
We do have some because they were there prior to, the issuance of that change. I think, there's probably other reasons that,
I think, yeah, you really kind of hit the nail on the head for, why that change was made, right? I guess the one thing I would say is that, as we're getting closer towards making a decision on anything, Might be good to, I can run through these standards of review, just read what the ordinance says, and then kind of read our comments back, which they're really meant as discussion points, to really kind of think about, okay, what about this property creates a practical difficulty or an unnecessary hardship.
What would it take to make that area into a separate piece of property?
What currently is a separate piece of property, there's 2 parcels there that I own.
I understand that, but I mean, to make it legally a separate piece of property.
That I could put a pole barn onto. I have to build a house, I believe, on it.
A
Correct, that's
primary.
Yeah,
That's exactly
primary
right.
dwelling, that's where he wants to put them. Yeah. that's fine.
So it's either this or that. It's not.
Correct. Based on the way that's currently written.
Okay, so a question for Michael. I'm still trying to figure out where the current driveway is, but do you use the current driveway now?
Yes, it is.
It's across from the courtyard,
A little
in the old
playground
high
area.
school.
ECEC.
Okay. So it goes next to the existing house and pulls in?
There's an attached garage,
Okay,
and then the driveway is used by the resident of the home, park vehicles.
okay.
And then the proposed new pole barn will be east, the east vacant lot
Right.
on William Street. So it's a different street altogether. Currently, the driveway's on High Street. The proposed pole barn and driveway will be on William Street
Right.
around the corner.
I'm just, food for thought. Do you need that current driveway to go all the way to the pole barn, or what if you basically rip that out and grass it over and then go to the other drive? That way you only have one drive to it. Just a thought out there, I mean, just,
Current driveway's for the home
right,
that's there.
but does that
You
go
could
all the way to the
go-
next parcel?
No,
So,
He's saying, can you move the driveway logically, but if there's a garage, so that would be very weird.
so
I don't think that'd be,
So if you combine the two, because you have to combine the two, you already have that existing one then.
correct. Yeah.
I'm just trying to
But
figure
the
out.
pole barn isn't, I mean, necessarily for the home's use then, it's for your
Is the
personal
home
use.
rental?
It is. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
rental property.
I mean, will it be part of the rental or will it
No.
be?
It's a entity that a corporation owns the house, also owns the pole barn.
got it.
If you ever sell the house, the barn would have to go with it.
I believe so. If we're gonna combine lots.
So really, the intent of the ordinance for the pole barn language, it's really to provide accessory storage for the
That's
dwelling.
exactly
And I,
right.
and I understand, if they're both owned by the same entity, right, that hypothetically could be used for that purpose.
Right.
But, yeah, it really should be, it's meant for residential accessory storage. Does give us a little concern when we talk about business use.
Sure.
Especially with kids right there. I mean, I see it's just gonna be RV use and stuff like that, but,
Seasonal.
For this owner.
right. I mean, anybody else, yeah, it could change through the years, and
those are the things you have to think about.
it could be a landscape company in 20 years, and it's rough guys or whatever. And there's a middle school right there, and he has elementary kids, and 10 years, or 5 years, he's gonna have middle schoolers. I don't know, those are things that I wanna think about as well, as a mom. So,
It's, I'm not sure if commercial is the correct way to address that. It's owned by an LLC, basically.
Right.
But it's by LLC, and it would be for my items of storage, not a UPS drop box zone. I mean.
Right,
don't
yeah, I
put
know.
address on
I
it,
get
but
that.
yeah, it would be very limited use on the driveway and parcel.
I think, does that make it more of a special use or does that make it, because it's really not. I guess I'm asking a technical question.
Yeah.
So, technically, still, what he's describing is still technically residential storage, right? And I think that's where we could still classify it and move it into the residential use, which is right next door. That's really, is the spirit of the ordinance really met with that? That's the question, right? So I think when you envision, accessory storage, you envision that you have a home, you have a barn that's used, in association with that.
So did you see it on the map?
So
I got the
10
map.
years down the road, you decide that you don't want to come here, preparing to do
So
all your
that's drive
stuff.
this, so they have to. come
You
back
need
to-
to sell, you need to sell those together.
That's correct.
Right.
That makes me more comfortable in zoning, just
Right,
because
because
at
it's, I'm
that
like, we can't
point,
just sell a piece of
You
property
couldn't,
and have
no, I
a
don't
whole
think-
barn
Is this
sitting
all
there.
curb?
yeah,
Yeah, don't get permitted.
No.
it's not,
Yeah.
you're right.
It's not
So
permitted, and I
Right.
think the next step is to actually
Then we
be
just
to
leave the
combine.
grass, we just drive right on the grass.
Right. Right.
So that's really what the difficulty is, if it was one lot, with only one driveway.
Right.
Just something else.
Which is an existing driveway, but there's variance to be a second driveway, even though it's a larger lot, maybe a driveway in one corner and then another driveway. in the other.
So what is the variance in? Why do you have to combine the lots to be able to put the pole barn on? Is it the frontage is not enough?
It's the use, actually.
Okay.
So the residential storage is only permitted as an accessory use. So
Okay.
you have to have that single family, whatever that residential use is, single family duplex, whatever.
Right.
That has to be established before you actually go and build an accessory structure
Okay.
and have
Well,
an accessory use.
Almost
So,
every jurisdiction has that
Do they?
rule that you can't
in this area,
build
for
on a
sure.
vacant lot, like a.
Just put a random-
Or like just a barn.
So
They
Shouldn't-
wanted to have a house on it.
shouldn't you have the lot first before we do the variance?
So, and here's the thing,
It could
if the
just be-
variance is denied, what's the point of him putting those two lots together? Right?
Mhm.
If he, he knows that in order to get the zoning permit to build a barn, he's got to put it together. So,
I mean, it would have to be contingent upon that.
Okay, that's where. it's kind of
Yeah,
going.
so, we just recommended that you don't spend the money to get the lots combined until you guys make your decision. Because it really isn't allowed in the ordinance to do this, so that's all right.
Well, if it's used for storage, I don't see a problem with that. But getting around everybody being able to have two curb cuts and two driveways, that's the problem.
Yeah.
More than anything else. I mean, if he said that he's got 6 trucks that go out of there every day right across from the school, that would be one thing. But storage, that makes sense, but everybody to have 2 curb cuts in town, just like you said.
And these are on two different streets. One's on High Street, and one is on William Street.
Right.
So, it's a new driveway being on the second street or a
It
different
would
street.
actually be the only driveway.
It would be
on
the
that
only-
street.
You're right, that's correct, except for the school on the. other
Yeah, on the
side,
other side.
It's true.
Yeah, there
What-
are many other places in town, I guess, that would kind of
No, corner
flow
lot.
that way.
corner lots, that's really the implication of approving something like that, is that if that was your only condition of approval or reasoning for approval, you now open that up to pretty much all corner lots in the
Yeah.
city. Pretty much you've got an extra driveway.
Then there
So,
are two adjacent lots,
Well, yeah,
two adjacent lots.
well, I guess really, you wouldn't have to have the 2 lots necessarily. If you did have one lot that had enough frontage on 2 streets that allowed you to get 2 access points in there, you could potentially go for it if this happens.
Well, I think what you're saying is he has 2 lots.
I have the 2 lots.
So if
Yeah.
if you guys set this precedent, then you would have, the next person that says, oh, I just have 1 lot, and the next person had 2 lots. So
Okay,
you wouldn't be opening it up to everybody that had 1 single lot.
that's a good way to look at it.
It would be
got it.
specific.
Really, that's what we pay for.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well,
Could
So-
you give us some,
So Michael, in the back of his
he has
report,
recommendations.
yes, he gives
in
you,
here.
some options, but I mean, one of the things that you need to think about is you have to go through those reasons for approving, or reasons for denying, or reasons for table. So,
Would it be helpful for me to go through those?
yeah, do you have that list?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I can start going
They're all
through.
right
So
here.
so if you go to page 2 of our report, section 4, number 1. It's comes right from the ordinance. Practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships prevent carrying out the strict letter of this ordinance. These practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships shall not be deemed economic as related to the particular individual petitioning for such variance. It shall be evaluated in terms of the use of a particular parcel of land because of unique circumstances or physical conditions such as narrowness, shallowness, shape, or topography of the proposed, of the property involved. And then our comment was that the Board of Appeals should discuss if this ordinance imposes a practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship. If the Board of Appeals should identify the specific features of the land that lend to practical difficulties. So truly, are there features of the land, of the parcel, that prevent him
Like a garage.
from,
Yeah. Fence.
that were not created by him, that create these practical difficulties. And typical examples of that would be, let's say you have an acre and most of it is wetland, right? That you didn't create that situation, this parcel, and if it's buildable, that could be a good practical difficulty. You didn't create that situation there.
So is he creating the situation that requires a second driveway?
Yes.
Is that what you're, I mean? So that's one. Anybody got questions on that one?
What about the fact that the current driveway does not provide egress to the new proposed building?
But the new proposed building is on a separate lot. So that's the situation. It's not, I mean, that's being created by adding the building. So it's not the fault of the lot that's there.
It's like, it's a self-created hardship.
We kind of need to look at this proposal in the terms of these lots being combined already, because you couldn't put the barn out there unless the lots are combined. So to think about these as separate parcels, we should really just kind of get that out of our head. It's written like that because that's how it is right now, but in order for him to build that, they will need to be combined. So we just really should look at it in the frame of, okay, these are parcel A and parcel B are really functional one.
But if there was a house there on the other lot, then you could build a pole barn. If there was a house there, then you likely wouldn't be able to put a pole barn on the other lot.
Yes, unless it was combined.
Right.
If you put a rental apartment in the garage, the barn,
It's an option.
Make it a barn house.
then it's its own. Just,
See a lot of people want to do that in Lakewood.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I can get you someone right now.
Yep, I believe it. I believe it.
Well, and honestly, a part of going through these variance requests is seeing if there's other ways of meeting the ordinance, right? Is
I mean,
there
that
a
would
better
meet it.
method, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something that, that's something it's good to talk about.
Obviously, if it's not him living there, he would need to be the primary. Would he need to be the primary if there was, or would it just be the rental, I guess, would be the primary? Right?
As far
Does
as
he
the
need to
use,
be the,
Well, I'm not really sure. what you're asking.
like, say in the barn's there and it stays a separate lot, and you put an apartment in it, then the primary could be
could be the apartment.
the apartment, and then that would just be the extra.
That's right.
And that's just a suggestion or an idea or a thought, I don't know. But then it would keep them separate. I don't know if that's what you're going for.
And then the driveway would be easily allowed.
And then the
because it
driveway
be
would just be
separate.
allowed because it's a one property. So it's a lot more work, a lot more thought, but I mean, you need plumbing and stuff, but I don't know exactly. An idea.
Todd, where's your storage now?
Right now, I have some in my garage, at my house, And then I have another property here in town with a detached garage that I have as well. Or, I'm sorry, it's attached garage that I use for some storage.
So you've got a place, you got some property in Perry too?
I do.
where you, keep your commercial stuff or?
Well, no, my larger items I have in several other areas. But my stuff I have now is just a garage here in Langsberg and a garage in Barry. Next to combine them into one facility where I can keep all my stuff.
Well.
I'm not sure how to go about this. I'm like both ways.
I can keep,
I'm
there's
like,
there's
oh,
a
I
lot more
want-
standards too.
I
can
mean,
keep
I
reading these
read
standards
it.
here.
I read all of them.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm still,
So do they have to meet all of them or just one of them or what?
They
are
don't have to meet
looking
all of
at?
them.
Okay, so
yeah,
If they meet one, then that is good enough basis to approve.
so do you guys want to talk about number one? Do you think that you could approve it based on, you know, the difficulty that the hardship that's created? Or do you think you can approve it based on that?
Well, don't we have to look at this in terms of one of the other variances here that involve two driveways?
You're gonna have another one to look
Right.
at after this.
So I think we're gonna have to balance the two one way or the
yeah.
other. Otherwise, just like you said, you're gonna open up, anybody can have. Everybody has a circle drive. They can park 6 vehicles on it if they want.
Well, the uniqueness here for him is that they're on two different streets.
No, I understand that, and I agree with it. I'm just trying not to
No, I see.
open up the rest of the town to,
Pandora's box.
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I drove over there and looked at things. I understand exactly what's going on. And the only consideration I really had was the traffic problem near the school. But if this is just seasonal storage, I can see where that wouldn't be a problem.
I think that, I mean, creating a variance for seasonal storage isn't really the intent of the ordinance.
Right.
I mean, you have to, if the variance is necessary because of, you know, the size or the, you know, something else, you know, but I mean, not because someone wants to store something. I don't know that that's gonna fit in your reasoning.
Oh, no, I
Right.
agree with you on that. What I'm saying is, as far as the biggest problem I had foreseen was the school.
Well, we're only on number one. Do you guys want Mike to keep going or what do you want to do?
No, I feel, I mean, I read them all. You just gave them to us a week ago. It should have all. I'll make a motion to deny the proposed variance of 402 to construct a second driveway located on 107 High Street with all those fancy numbers involved. And the city of Lynchburg, based upon it does not satisfy the basic condition as set forth with self-created hardships. So
just to clarify, Dina, you're saying that it's a self-created hardship.
I do think so.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that anymore, just so that we've got, you know, the reason I ask is
Yeah.
because variances, they, you know, they really do impact, you know,
Yeah.
everybody that applies for them, right? And you want to make sure that you've given them, you know, a
Every-
good
yeah.
justification for
Absolutely, I
why
totally
something like
would,
that is happening.
Yeah.
So self-created and, yeah, do you,
I mean, I would say self-created because this you wants to add a complete building over there, and I mean, otherwise you wouldn't ever need a driveway over there. So, I mean, I understand the reasoning and I think it's a good idea, but then at the same time, I don't think it follows the basic conditions in here.
Well, Mr. Brewer, what's the biggest advantage to you? I mean, if you get another piece of property someplace, and build there, and have your storage, so other than being where there's houses around it, then there's, activity where people can, would be more difficult to break in. I don't see any great advantage unless it's the property prices.
Well, that's certainly part of it, but I currently own that property. And it would be certainly in my best interest to use the existing parcel that I do own if I'm able to build a storage barn. And right now it's a vacant lot that we've been maintaining since we've owned it. It's not, overgrown with brush and trash and stuff, but it's something that we've maintained. And it's just, it felt that was a good opportunity for me to build the storage barn that we need for our, it's recreational vehicles, it's boat storage. We've got some tools and equipment that we use for our business, but I mean, it's not a nuisance. It's not going to be daily in and out traffic. It just seemed to make sense to me that because I already own the property here in town, along with several other properties that I own here, that would be a very central location for our equipment. I don't live too far from here at all, and it just it made sense to me to build on this barn, assuming you're able to get the variance to combine the lots, have two driveways, one for the home and then one for the barn.
The other
Paul,
question, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Paul, I'm out of turn, right? We have to vote.
She has
There's
a
a motion
motion.
on the
Yeah,
table,
it's a
yeah.
motion,
So if we want to talk anymore, we should have a
we
second.
can't talk until we.
No second? All right.
There's no support for the
No.
denial. Okay, he's still thinking.
I'll second it.
And then we can discuss it, yeah. Okay, so we're back to you. You're good now.
So then, when you say seasonal, what pops in my mind is spring and fall.
Or
So-
winter.
Well, yeah, at the end of fall, when the boats need to get away.
Right.
School bus traffic and school traffic, and it's already a madhouse back there, with kids being dropped off, from what I hear.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that, but,
I told my son to walk, just
you
because
know,
I don't want to
I
go there.
mean, that has to be considered at some
Absolutely.
point
Absolutely.
too.
And I know when that traffic is in the morning. I mean, my kids went to school here and I know that it's a madhouse. I wouldn't use that driveway, drop off time or pickup time during the day.
I know, it's just
Be an
in my
issue
mind,
for
I
Yeah,
just-
you.
absolutely.
it's something I wanted
I'm
to
staying
point
away from
out,
that area. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's an RV, we have a motorhome, we have a couple of boats we're gonna put in there. It's not commercial from the standpoint that I'm not charging anybody else for this. This is all my stuff. Stuff for our business that we have.
What is your
Scaffolding,
business?
rental properties. We own several rental. homes,
Okay.
Fix and flip a few couple houses a year.
Okay, all right.
But I think we have 9-10 properties here in Langsford that we own and several over in Perry. And you're right, you put a for rent sign in them and they're gone in a day or two. It's a great place to live. I mean, I raised my kids here. I went to school here, K through 12. And we really appreciate Langsford and what the city's doing. And there's nothing I want to do to detract from that. I mean, what I'm doing
Right.
is adding value, I think, to the Langsford area. Yes, it's helping me out personally, but I mean, it's going to be an addition, I think, to the city.
Well, and if there's anything specific, we can put specific conditions.
I don't know that
Can
you
you do
can.
that?
I mean, what,
I mean, I guess what kind
Or
of.
what,
conditions-
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm
It does
just,
vary. I mean, yeah. I mean,
because, for the next one and the next one and the next one, there has to be some sort of general condition. If we're making an exception, is it, well, because it's technically on two different streets?
That could be part of a reasoning for,
That's, I mean, it's not,
But then any corner would be.
Right, but I
Two
mean,
lots, two different parcels,
If you
two
think
cats, any
about-
numbers.
But if you combine, they become one. So then
But
you're back to the
originally-
corner house.
Yeah.
Originally,
That's
yes,
what's
what's
gonna
gonna
happen.
happen a lot.
Yeah, because they're gonna have to get combined.
Sure.
To do that.
I mean, I think number 4 says the circumstances causing the need for variance do not result from actions by the applicant. That's what Dina's talking about. Number 1 says that it can't have any kind of a economic, effect for the individual. It can't like be, it's not helping them economically.
Right.
I don't think it really is a problem with the setbacks or any of that. I think that, we're not, I don't think number 2 is really a problem with it. The variance is the minimum amount necessary. I mean, we're only doing one driveway, so yep, I guess so. And the request for variance shall be assessed for the possible precedents or effects that might result from approval or denial. And I think that's where Mike is going, is that, what happens if we approve this, then what happens down the road to other requests? So I think you got like 3 things that you have to discuss here before you can approve it. The variance is not one where the specific conditions relating to the property are so general or recurrent in nature as to make the formation of a general regulation. So, are we saying that this would make this practical, that we should change our ordinance? So, I mean, I think we can meet that. We're okay there. And number 7, the request for variance shall be consistent with the general purpose and intent of this ordinance and will not cause a substantial adverse effect upon surrounding property values, use and enjoyment of property in the neighborhood or district. I mean, I don't think that's, I think you could go with intent. You could talk about the intent there that, this is meant for a residential use. And really, he's said that he's gonna use it for his business.
well, the other thing I didn't, unless I missed it, like in the past, when we've had some of these, we've had the neighbors speak up. Have there been any concerns from neighbors?
We've not really,
It's an empty building and then him, so.
No, I know, I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
There's still the people on Grand River that
Right.
they're gonna be behind. Just
whether
curious.
I mean, if the neighbors complain, it would be something to consider, but whether the neighbors complain or not, doesn't mean.
Oh, no, I
it meets
know,
the
but
ordinance.
it's been,
Right,
we've had that before, where we've talked it through. And
Right.
so I was just curious if,
yeah, no,
If
we
neighbors
haven't,
have brought
if we had
any-
anything, we would have provided it. We don't have anything.
that's what I figured. I just want to make sure I didn't
Yeah.
miss them.
And then I think the last one is the request for variance will regulate or relate only to this property owned by the applicant or where the applicant has legitimate and legal interest. So if it appears this variance would relate only to the property owned by the applicant or where the applicant has legitimate and legal interest, the board should also address if the regulation prevents the owner reasonable use of the property enjoyed by others. So,
So. I mean, we're just looking at the driveway. Let's say, you don't even say you're gonna put a building, there, you just want a driveway. Is it hitting the requirements in the ordinance for just the driveway? I can care less about the building.
absolutely not.
Okay.
It would not be allowed.
It's 1 ingress, 1 egress per.
But there are 2 lots at this moment. I'm just saying, like, right now, there are 2 different lots.
That's what I was
It
saying.
would
If
be
he kept
one
them
drive.
separate, the driveway could be there.
That's what I'm wondering, like, right
Right.
now, if nothing changed, no building, lots can get combined, would we put another driveway?
No.
We would not.
If the
Because there's
lots didn't-
nothing.
If they
Only
did
if
not
there was
combine.
another house there, or no, then we would not just allow a driveway there
Okay.
by itself.
Not a driveway to nowhere.
All right,
If
that's
there
what
was
I was
something
wondering.
there,
Right.
yeah.
If another house was there, then yes.
Okay. We'll get a little kid's house and put it on the lot. Because my thought is, it makes sense because it's on 2 different roads, but I don't want to have that precedent of every house out here having 2 driveways. That's the only thing that's,
Yeah, I agree.
from the guidelines in the ordinance, I'm leaning towards, we need to follow that, and it doesn't create a variance that we can override the ordinance at this point. That's just my thoughts. And that's my reason. yes, it's on another road, I'd be all for it, makes more sense, that's why I'm asking the question.
Right, I know,
But,
it makes
The
sense to me too
ordinance-
as a person, but.
you know, the ordinance, maybe we need to look at it differently from the ordinance standpoint, but that's what we're worried.
Right.
So,
I agree completely. It's the problem.
Just sell them all, be done with it.
I'll give you some property to go off versus.
Right?
So the motion is on the table. We have a second
Is there any more discussion you guys want to talk about?
discussion.
Up to you,
All
boss.
opposed? Okay, yeah. Are we doing this?
Yep.
Okay, all opposed to the denial? Is that what you needed?
Yes,
Want to do a roll
So
call?
who's in favor?
the right
We
language.
can,
All right, so we should do a roll call.
okay, I'll do a roll call. I'll read it out again.
Okay,
All opposed to the denial request by Todd Brewer. The proposed variance to section 402B.
Why are you saying all opposed?
yeah.
I'm
you really-
confused. No, so what did I say?
You're
You're
saying,
confused.
the recommendation is to deny.
Yes.
Okay, so you want to know how they want to vote on the denial? Yes.
Are
they
you
wanna
Are
vote
you in
yes
favor
or
of
no?
the denial?
So.
Yeah.
So we're
Did I
gonna
say
do roll call.
opposed?
Yeah.
Oh.
We were like,
that's what
I
said.
think you were confusing us for a minute.
No, okay. Okay, don't listen to me.
So we're gonna do a roll call vote, and it's yes if you want to approve the denial, right?
Right.
And no if you don't want to.
The motion is
To
deny.
yes to deny, no, not to deny, correct?
and then make a read.
Yes.
Okay, so
So
we roll call. Okay.
if we say yes to deny, is that
That
done?
means that you can't do the
It's
driveway.
done. He has to come up with a different solution.
The only other solution is to put a house on that and then put a barn on that.
Or an apartment in the barn.
What classifies a dwelling then? Could you just like throw a toilet in it and say, there we go, I can live there?
Maybe you should read the ordinance, because I'm sure that wouldn't count.
Yeah,
It
well,
has to be a-
that's my question. Michigan residential building code. Okay,
Modular home, put it on there.
modulars are allowed.
I mean,
in
if you
some
want to live in a
situations.
city that has just toilets in the front yard and count as a dwelling,
Yeah,
then,
that's-
you know, then you should probably,
Some on
wasn't exactly
21,
like-
27 feet down. But
but we're not trying to create that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I'm taking a house, you know, a $200,000 house that's on the corner of, you know, High Street
Right.
and Williams and putting in a nice barn that's gonna be aesthetically pleasing.
yeah, and I see it and I know that it will be, and I think it is a good idea. But in according to the ordinance, I don't want to have to,
And with all due respect, I think that this situation is very unique in the fact that it's currently two separate parcels. In the size, it's over half of an acre.
Right.
And I think that most of the lots in Langsford owned by a single family resident is not a half an acre. I think this is a large size parcel, even when it's combined,
yeah,
and could justify having a home, 3-bedroom home, attached garage with a driveway, and also a 40 by 60 pole barn with its own driveway on the same parcel. You still have plenty of room.
I
So
understand.
we are calling for a vote.
Yes. We're calling for a vote.
So you want to know if we want to deny it? or not?
The motion on the floor is to deny the request by Todd Brewer for the variance. For the second drive. That's the motion on the floor. Judd,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Bayer,
No,
Peters.
Yes.
I know it's hard to make these decisions.
It is so hard. I am
It
like,
is, it's just not, you know what,
Yes, personally, I just like to go along.
when personally, we might be, you know, hey, that's nice.
it does look nice. Okay. We'll just carry on.
So, let's
I
just,
hate to cut it off.
I kind of want to make sure that, with Michael, that we've satisfied the conditions. We've talked about the reasoning.
So you had it in there, your reasoning,
Was
that it was self-created.
correct.
That was the main one that I heard. in there.
Right.
You know, that clearly does not go with number 4, you know, circumstances causing the need for variance does not result in actions by the applicant. And we talked about others too. There were others in there. You know, a lot of these situations, things go either way.
Yeah.
It's really about how you look at it, what you want.
I think they talked about, you know, how it will create a precedent. And they talked about being used as a business.
I think also too, you know, some jurisdictions, you know, they like to have their ZBA just play very narrow focus, but I always like to encourage boards that if you see something where you want a regulation to be changed, you're still, you know, a part of the, you know, the government, you're appointed official, right? You can always provide a recommendation that something be changed if you feel like the regulation, you know, isn't good enough.
How about this one, Mike? Let me just kind of throw this out, just kind of throw it at that point. So if we recommended changing it, where you could have 2 driveways on a lot, is there some type of specification or wording? If, like, looking at this alone, I mean, the 2 driveways are gonna be 200 feet, 300 feet apart. Is that something that we can always recommend to like city council or something like that? Just, hey, if there is a certain space provided between the 2 driveways on a corner lot, would that be feasible to do? Because I mean, it makes sense to do this. It
It
really
does,
does. It's
it
just
does.
the ordinance
And
Sure.
is the thing holding it back.
a specific amount of acreage.
But that's what I'm thinking, like,
I mean, all those conditions could be applied, right? I mean, right now, you see the, I mean, I took the entirety of the section of the ordinance where it comes from. Single family lots are permitted one point
Right.
for ingress, egress, right? So you can get a lot more detail with it. It can be more than that. You know, you could say that, you know, corner lots are provided another, you know, provided that they meet conditions set, you know, that follows. They are a half acre in size. They're so-and-so away from another curb cut. I mean, you could place those kind of conditions on it. I know it's not really the role of the ZBA to come up with that, but if you feel like, you know, it makes sense, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we can take it.
And you have a representative here at the planning commission that can bring this up at our
Council.
next meeting, and council.
Council.
You know, yeah, you know, actual legislative body. So,
I'm just, I mean, that way, it may not be completely dead or not. I mean, you can, go to the
Right.
next thing, like here, us following the ordinance, to me, that we have to stop at this point, but
I know,
in the
I don't want to
future,
just shut it down. for you.
expand it.
I
I
don't want to
mean,
fix
that's
it.
the thing, because I mean, like I said, that makes sense to me to do it, but just the ordinance doesn't let me say yes. So,
Agreed.
and you know, also too, you know, the ZBA, it's a roadblock. It's not the end of the road. You know,
Right.
People always have, you know, you have the ability to appeal to the court, you know, if you feel that you really, you know, that standards, what they're gonna go back to is exactly what we looked at here for the standards of approval. You know, did the ZBA do its job, you know, holding a public hearing and actually providing certain reasoning for why it was done? If you can't prove that, then they're likely to side with the other party. But I think that the ZBA is really good in the fact that they see the ordinance from a perspective that you do not get at the planning commission. You know, you don't, you only see the ones that can't, you know, that they're meeting the ordinance for, right?
Right.
So I think that's why it's really nice to have that, you know, liaison to the board that creates the language. But let's talk about that at the end too.
Right.
About other recommendations that you want to make.
I mean, it's just another thought. Look at it, so.
Question, Paula, do you remember how long ago we rewrote those ordinances? We did it.
It's, It's been 10,
Yeah,
15 years.
I'm just
Yeah.
kind of wondering.
I mean,
trying
I don't
to
rem-
remember.
I do remember when we added that because we were having some issues with, like, we were doing some curb streets and then people, we would go down there, people are like, well, I have 2 driveways and we're like, well, how many curb cuts can we do? Why are we putting in curb? I mean, that kind of was part of the creation of the problem. And I know every street doesn't have curb, but it could eventually, what I mean? So if we, but I mean, I also realized this lot, if it had a home on it, would have a driveway. So, but I mean, it's not the intent for us to have everybody come put a pole barn on a vacant lot and not build a home. Because that doesn't really create, our intent either. We want to fill our lots with homes and create we want a more dense population. So, I mean, I think that that's in all of our plans. So, I mean, I think that, a driveway, could be allowed there if it was a home. I mean, I think then you wouldn't have any, we wouldn't be sitting here,
Right.
it would just be allowed. So,
Yeah, but I think too, if it's been, it's like I said, it's been a while because I don't even remember. what it is, I
but
remember doing it.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
allowed for a while to have 2 driveways.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
was just trying to remember.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to revisit and then put some parameters around it. Things have
idea.
changed in 15 years and we haven't, we did that on planning years ago. We rewrote it. So I'm just wondering if just,
I'm all for rechecking things out and.
We're on the planning
Absolutely.
commission, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, we used to put some wording together, say, hey, let's. Propose
You
this
put that
to
on
you.
the planning agenda and talk about it?
sure.
I think it's a good idea, but yeah. All right, should carry on then. Item number 3. This is 111 Church Street. And this Sandra J. Kane, which is- Mike, do you wanna?
Sure. Very similar to our last request here. This is also a variance for a second driveway. This is actually, I believe it's on Lang and Crum. It's at the intersection of Lang and Crum. Church Street was the address for the. Just to clarify the location of that.
It's on,
It's on McClintock and
Is it
Lang, it's
McClintock?
like right at the end.
Yeah, it's right at the, you
Yeah,
kept driving, you run into the house.
Yeah.
but it's actually on Lane, right?
it's
It's
on
actually on
Lang.
Lang. Yep.
That's what we had in all of our postings, but on the agenda.
It's
I
across
didn't
from the
catch
car
that
wash.
somebody put
Yeah, I went,
The address of the applicant.
I'm not trying to call you out.
Yeah,
No, I caught it just like, I was like, what? When I was getting ready to put this together.
I did, I was in touch with the applicant's daughter or the owner's daughter. She said that she was not gonna be able to be here tonight. I thought she did, she provided some information on their application as to why, a lot of the reasoning being just not having sufficient parking spaces on site for the tenants. And then in the additional notes and comments on my report, I did note that it was verbally stated that that there was a shared driveway between the parcel that was adjacent. She did get back with me and confirm that there's actually no shared driveway situation there. They both of the houses, their driveways pretty much touch, but they are separate driveways, so it's
Right.
not. So that's not necessarily the situation. I think the differences between this one and the one that we just talked about was, we're not on a, it's not a corner lot. We don't have, it's very largely developed. There's not, a bunch of vacant space. There's not a second parcel in play.
Make a motion. to look at that.
yeah, second.
Is there anybody here from the applicant?
Do you know?
No, okay. Oh, you're here for the next one. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that they
No,
had
I
an
know, yeah.
opportunity to talk if they
Yeah.
were here, so.
The only question I have at this discussion so, is,
Was there
Is it a
motion
Was there a
second?
second?
yeah. Is it a duplex? Not that that changes my second, but it was just a single family.
It's a
home,
single
right?
family.
Single family, it seems like there's some. I don't know, it's a multi-generational thing. I don't know if the.
I mean, I drove by and
grandmother
the
lives there
driveway's
too.
there.
It is there, and, that's something too, when you're looking at variance requests, it's really tough not to do this, but you should really treat it like it's not there for those code enforcement issues, because the last thing you want to do is be punitive and go after them for breaking the ordinance.
No, I
you know.
mean, the approved driveway is there and they have a garage.
What
so-
is the ordinance for offset to property?
From a driveway?
Yeah. I mean, it's like right there. I mean, I know like shared driveways are touching, but I don't know if there was an offset or.
I know like if you build a garage, there's like the 10 feet, but I mean, a driveway, I would assume typically with a garage and all that, it's gonna be 10 feet, but
Right.
some of those old, I mean, those two homes have been there a really long time, so
Yeah.
I'm sure they were built before there was anything, but, I
couldn't
don't,
tell you. off the
I
top
would
of
have to
my
look
head
at the
that.
standards for driveways, but I mean, I've never,
Some zoning ordinance have it, some don't.
but usually it's because the house has to be in the garage so far from another, like right now, those wouldn't be built that close.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
That's kind of grandfathered in because.
Yeah, they've
it
been
was
there.
Probably built when the pickle factory was. built.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm sure, I mean, that's one of the first homes that was built in Lanesburg, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But as far as the second driveway, if you build a garage there, you'd have to be 10 feet off the lot,
Right,
so
and
that driveway isn't even 10 feet off the lot. So if that, I guess my thought would be that your driveway would typically be 10 feet from the lot,
Typically.
at least,
At
or
least-
35, because some of those houses are on the, I mean, you're talking about an accessory is 10 feet, but a house would be 35, right?
And I know you mentioned about like not enough parking.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of houses that don't have parking.
There's plenty of parking behind there if you look at the pictures, and you asked earlier about the neighbors. We didn't get a letter from the neighbor, but we did get a request to put up a fence right next to that new driveway went in, if that tells you anything.
So there's a new driveway, this one is new, but this is the neighbors, right?
No, that's the driveway they put in. This is the neighbor's house.
I already put it in.
Yeah,
They put it in right next.
And
to
then they're also parking on the grass next to
And
it.
that's the other thing. They didn't go through the proper channels like times too. I'm like,
Yeah.
It is. So,
Yeah.
Motion's on. We had a second, right?
Roll call vote.
Let's word it properly.
Yes.
Did I?
You haven't worded it yet.
John,
Craig? Yes.
Cassidy, the motion is to deny.
Yes.
Bayer,
Yes.
Yes.
Severs. And for the reasoning, we want to talk about the reasoning, the hardship is pretty much self-created there,
Self-created hardship.
Definitely.
precedent,
There's so whole bunch of things. Yeah, I'd say the
and it will
self-created hardship.
hardship on the neighbors. I mean, I think it will affect the neighbors the way that one is put in there. I mean, if you're gonna go through those things, you could talk about those same things with
Yeah.
this one.
Absolutely. All right,
Agree with that entirely.
well, next up is items of business number 4. This is for Jack, as you stuff your face. No, I'm just kidding. Jack Shaker at 315 Grand River. They would like to add an addition, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah, I'll just give it the quick summary. Yeah, there's an addition that's proposed. The current house is set right up on the lot line. So it's current, it's classified as a legally non-conforming structure. Anytime you do anything to those structures, unless you are reducing the size of them, they actually are supposed to come in front of this board and get approval first. So as an expansion of that non-conformity, with the idea being that you don't want to encourage people to be non-conforming. And if they are going to continue to be non-conforming or expand that, then a board's going to have to say, okay, why are you doing that? Let's look into the reason for that.
Give me an idea where this is. I can't picture it.
Kindergarten house.
Kindergarten.
It's right there.
Oh, kindergarten.
Yeah,
Okay, I know where that is.
yeah.
Okay.
They bought
Jack
Kindergarten.
just bought kindergartens and they're gonna renovate it.
Okay, nice.
Now, I know if I say that, you knew what, you know where it was.
I know,
I do.
This house is right next to the fence. at
Yeah,
the doctor's, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
that
I
big
went around back
single
and I
one.
looked where there's that piece missing of the house. That's what you're gonna fill in.
but up top.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just gonna make it the second story, so I don't have to do foundation and just put posts in the ground. Yeah, no foundation.
It'll be like a covered patio.
Yeah. Underneath it, concrete, but that's later on.
So then the setback issue is what?
Yeah, so the current house already encroaches into that setback, the
In the
new
front,
addition,
Towards the front?
on the side,
On the side,
towards the
okay.
doctor's office.
Okay.
So with the addition also going to be encroaching, you know,
Okay.
you know,
amount.
yeah, same amount. So again, you think about things that are self-created. Did they build that house there back when? No, they did not do that. You know, are they trying to improve the character of the current
Absolutely.
house by doing the addition? You know, probably. Those are definitely things you want to take into consideration.
I
I mean,
guess,
that's gonna happen all over town.
Yeah.
All these houses have been here for 100 years and
Need improvement.
need improvement and
And again, we haven't heard, I mean, we didn't get any response from the neighbors or, you know, anything. We've sent
I'm sure
letters.
they're just perfectly happy.
I mean, we've
He
sent
has the
letters.
neighbor next to him.
I'm just here to say that I wanted to, it'd be nice to not look at a crap house forever.
Yeah,
I live in the Flintock.
the view of,
309
the
Flintock
addition.
Street.
So you don't want the toilet?
Yeah, I can see it from here.
Which house is that?
It's this tan house back here, literally like.
Right next to
behind
it.
DPW.
Where did they just put in
New
that
Parks.
cathedral thing or?
Do you know Lyle Holcomb? My grandpa, he lived in that house.
The name, but
Oh, sure.
got it. Okay.
the only thing that I would say, and I don't think it's a big issue, I don't believe there's any windows in the doctor's office that appear.
They always
That
have-
was the only thought I had, like, well, does the doctor's office care if there's no windows?
but they
there? Why
always
would
have
they care?
blinds shut, and I mean,
Actually,
He has
their fence
kids.
comes up to like over the top of my.
Oh, does it?
First, oh, yeah, it's
It's a
like, it
tall
almost reaches
fence.
my soffit on the second floor.
yeah,
Up.
because their
There-
parking
there's a
lots like
football.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the part of it's big. I mean, that was the only thing I was like, I honestly was fine with it.
He has two kids though, so he'd probably be more concerned that somebody's seeing his
We're looking in his
windows
way,
than
Right.
opposite.
I guess I would make a motion to approve.
Second. Go for it.
Discussion. It's your turn.
Yeah.
Look at you.
I mean,
Any
like you said,
discussion?
anything that is going to approach is gonna have to come in front of the board.
That's right.
Mhm.
So in any
So it
addition.
can be it's gonna go on a case by case basis.
Completely, for this type of a variance. So this is, yeah, what they applied for, well, and what we should be specific about here is the fact that there's actually two variances being requested. One, encroachment into the setback, and two, expansion of the non-conforming building, the existing house. So any non-conforming building, so any other building that's out there that encroaches into the setback, you would see that again. For any kind of,
And it's not
Structural
conforming
change.
because,
it encroaches into the setback.
okay, so they go hand in hand.
They do go hand in hand. Yep. I guess what you would want to be specific about is the side yard setback variance. It's, why are we granting that? Well, because the current house is not conforming
Yeah, he can't.
and they have to get that in order to do, in order to build, along the same build line.
So the unique circumstances that the house already exists,
Yeah, on a tight
the,
lot.
the existing, I'm just trying to get it
Yeah.
worded
The
correctly.
existing is
Well, the
already,
other question is, have you had it
Already not
surveyed to know
conforming.
that that fence is really
the
where it should
existing
go?
house is already not.
If-
conforming.
Is a-
The
The
fence for
property?
the,
The fence that's there, because he put that fence up, I believe.
no,
The doctor's office?
the doctor's office.
Mr. Kindergarten did, didn't he?
He had the fence put up because he didn't want the
Right.
light from the cars.
Right, so that's my question is it in the proper
Where
place?
it's supposed to be.
Because are you gonna get backlash from, okay, well, your fence isn't in the right place? You know what I'm saying? I don't want this to snowball on you. That's why I'm asking you. Do
So
you
are
have a
What's
survey?
the question?
Has there been a survey of his property
No.
first?
No.
Okay, so
She's saying, do you know if the fence
Right,
is
it-
yours? And in
Are
the
you
right
gonna
spot.
have, is there going to need to be a survey before the addition?
I can get it surveyed.
Well, I just don't want it to snowball on you, is my point. If at some point they come back and say, well, your fence is in the wrong spot, your fence isn't allowed, or something like
So I
that.
guess my
He's-
question
But the
is.
fence is already there.
He's going back, not,
I know,
Right.
I'm just, do
Actually,
you know where I'm going?
yeah. Yes, I do.
Does that make, am I?
no,
I
I
think it's
get it. I
reasonable.
see it.
But the doctor's office had it surveyed when they rebuilt their building.
Right, but the doctor's office didn't put the fence up.
But the doctor's office parking lot,
Right.
and it's sitting on the parking lot's wall.
And so was there a setback, is there a setback amount for a parking lot?
I don't know.
So, because obviously parking lot can't be sitting on my house.
Exactly.
You
No, that's
know?
why I was curious if you had it surveyed.
Well, I think that was
if there
probably zoning non-conforming problem way back then.
Right.
Whenever that was
That's-
built,
Probably.
that, you know, commercial is 0 lot line, but then you put commercial and residential. So this is why we exist, is to hopefully, I mean, seriously, people are like, oh, you can't tell me,
Just,
but
you
I
know,
mean, then we end up with these
get a
problems
permit.
that just
Yeah.
kind of,
Start
you know,
What is the
There's
setback
another
for a fence?
issue.
it can be on the lot line.
It can be on.
Okay, that, you know, that's, yeah.
So fences can be on the lot line. Commercial property is 0 lot line, in, like most areas.
It's been there
So-
for.
They can build right up to the edge of their
Yeah.
lot. but
Yeah.
then residential, you gotta be
Right, I
30.
But it's
I
also been the
personally-
same
So how
owner
does that-
on the other
when you have it
side.
together, there's a
So
problem.
it changes when, have you purchased a house already?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're gonna wait until I move it up.
Oh, so, okay, well, then you probably didn't have to have survey that when you purchased it, so.
It'd be a good
Just-
idea to know for you, and then
Yeah.
if you know, if for some reason there is encroachment issue for that fence or for the house, and it being that it's been there, you've been using it for so long, you would go after adverse possession. You kind of have to. But
Or even just, if you can even just find your markers.
Yeah.
And they're there, and they're in the ground.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I did actually find one for kindergartners back when I had my previous property, the one right here.
I can't
307.
believe Richard didn't have a survey. I can't believe that.
I know,
No.
he's right to the very inch.
And, well, the thing is, the guy actually went back to Richard's yard and dug up into his
Yeah, I'm
grass and
almost
found that
positive
puck,
he
so
would
I know where his puck is
have.
actually.
Yeah, so you could easily, you could find them yourselves, and you
Exactly.
look it
Yeah,
on.
that's just something to think about, is
Yeah.
my point. So it doesn't snowball.
yeah, you don't wanna start building something. So it's-
okay, so the motion.
Yeah, so let's do roll call.
Yep, okay.
What is the motion again?
To approve.
the
To
variance.
approve the
the
variance
variance.
for the
Judd?
addition. Yes.
Cassidy.
Yes.
Bayer.
Yes.
Favors.
Yes.
I would bet Memorial would have to survey.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I'm sure, just.
Do we have, do we have anything else for other? In 3 years, we haven't had a meeting. Do you have anything for other today? No?
No,
Okay.
It's-
Oh.
And there's 3 of them tonight.
I think to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Exactly.
Motion to adjourn, second.
Second.
It's more like a, let's just do it.
Sorry, are you the chair?
You said it was. I motioned to adjourn.
You're not
You
supposed
guys
to
were-
motion.
Yeah, I know, and then, yeah.
Second.
It takes time.
I did,
Yeah,
I,
it's-
I,
it's
I
not-
don't know these things.
I mean.
I
yeah,
stayed on.
the driveway-
That's why I never motioned on
Just-
this.
that might be LBC's rule.